07EN7105. Please remove the car and park it at the right spot. Please, I repeat, a housekeeping announcement. Please put your mobiles on silent mode. Krishna Chaitanya Puttugunta is a prominent figure in the world of AI-based operation management solutions for fashion and lifestyle brands. As a co-founder of Zaperio AI, he has played a pivotal role in revolutionizing the fashion industry by introducing cutting-edge technology into the creative process. With over a decade of industry experience, Krishna has been at the forefront of developing innovative solutions that empower designers and brands to harness the power of generative AI. Through Zaperio AI's platform, he has enabled designers to seamlessly create custom products and models, ushering in a new era of creative and efficiency in the fashion and lifestyle sectors. Krishna's passion for technology and his commitment to driving change within the industry make him a true visionary in the field of AI-powered fashion management solutions. We welcome you, Krishna Chaitanya. Dr. Venugopal, our second panelist, is DGM AI/ML and working with ZF Group. Dr. Venugopal is a seasoned advanced analytics evangelist with over 18 years of experience in various industries. He's a data scientist, economist, and techno-functional consultant, known for covering business problems into analytic solutions. He specializes in manufacturing and market intelligence. Enabling organizations to excel with analytics. Driven by his passion, he's established centers for excellence in disruptive technologies like AI and ML and blockchain. His expertise includes generalized linear modeling, time series modeling, and deep learning. And he's a proficient in various data science and engineering tools, including SAS, Python, big data tools like Hadoop and Hive. Currently, he serves as DGM AI/ML with ZF Group. We welcome you, Dr. Venugopal. Som Sundar, our third panelist, Som Sundar Konduri, is working as a senior director with HR BP lead. Som Sundar, you come on. You and I work in the same HR space. He works with ADP. Som Sundar holds the esteemed position of Senior Director and India in HR Business and Business Partnering, HR BP, and a lead at ADP. With an extensive background in HR, Som Sundar brings a wealth of experience in his role. He is instrumental in guiding ADP's HR strategies and initiatives in India, ensuring that they are closely aligned with the company's overpowering objectives. Som Sundar's leadership and dedication is elevating HR process to make HR practices, make him a key contributor to ADP's continued success in the ADP market in India and abroad. Our fourth panelist, Amit Sharma, is the Senior Director of Data Science with Global AI Accelerator, GAIA, and a leadership team working with Ericsson. In his current role, Amit is responsible for building data-driven solutions using AI and ML technologies towards intelligent automation in the telecom domain. Prior to this, he was leading AI/ML capability for ADP in the HR/talent domain. With 24 years of experience in product development and technology leadership, Amit is extremely passionate about design, architecture, data, and loves to solve real-world problems with technology. We welcome all of you. I'm Srilata Shankar. I'll be moderating the session. I am an HR and L&D leader like Som. I have been working in various companies, banking, telecom, IT, and ITES. I also teach HR at MBA colleges. I conduct soft skill workshops for MBA colleges, engineering colleges, and corporate companies. I do a little bit of content writing. I've been dabbling with poetry for the last 5 years. I've written about 37 poems so far. I hope to publish a book soon. I have a creative side to me. I do tangible painting, block printing, tie and dye, and pottery. I have an adventure side to me as well. I have done bungee jumping, paragliding, zip lining, and Tarzan swing. I've added another layer to my personality recently, collaborating with ITTV Global Media. We started a leadership series talk. We've done 3 episodes so far, and I hope to interview all of you, if not all of you, at least most of you. And I hope to touch 100 episodes soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Srilata. Before kicking off this session, this conference is live streamed on My Startup TV and ITTV. Both My Startup TV and ITTV are media partners for today. So we'll have the link up on the slide in a while. So please share in your group. So those who couldn't make it to the day today in physical appearance, so they can watch it online on YouTube, on their channels. Thank you.
Thanks, Abhilash, for the announcement. We'll start the panel discussion with my question to you. Can you share a specific example of an AI application in your industry that has brought significant change or value?
Okay. Firstly, coming from the HR space, representing the HR fraternity, along with Lata over here, thank you for having me, first of all, amongst all the product management community. Oftentimes got tempted to move on to the product side as well. Amit knows this, some of my other fraternity people, Ranjan knows this. So really glad and privileged to be here. Now, on the technology front, I may not be as an expert as all of you sitting here, but definitely on the thought process and approaches on how we can enable and facilitate some of these things as a culture across amongst all the employees in the organization is where my expertise lies in. So coming to the question on what we have done in the space, it's the buzzword right now. But first and foremost, I want to give the context again is we may have a lot of knowledge and expertise with us, each one of us brings to the table, but do we showcase all of it for the reason of showing it, or to really solve some real problems? So for us at ADP, it's majorly, the whole strategy is towards client being a North Star for us. As you know, how do we look at the experiences itself for that matter? What are we delivering for them, right? Ramesh spoke about the experiences of Apple, etc. That was the North Star for them. Functionality, capabilities, we may have all of that, but what are we trying to address? So in that light, keeping that particular aspect in mind, how can we enable and provide better experience for your clients? One of the examples I can share is we have something called as chat summarization. This is something that in one of the products, a lot of our client service reps receive calls, they have to take case notes. It's a manual, tedious process. However, we have lately integrated that. We have integrated the Gen AI into the systems wherein they can focus taking the calls and provide those insightful expertise while addressing their problems and not worry about taking notes, right? The Gen AI tool just captures all the information, summarizes, and it's bye-bye case notes. So that's a major achievement. Imagine the amount of work it saves for the client service reps in providing and just being focused on the call when they take in resoluting, providing resolutions for people who are calling us. So that's one of the examples, at least in the coming from the HCM space, being a HR practitioner, a real life example that we can talk about on the strides that we have already taken at ADP.
Right. I move on to you. What are some unique challenges your industry faces when implementing AI, and how are these being addressed?
Sure, thanks Lata, and thanks for having me, guys. I've worked with ADP for so long that each one of you, I think I can connect with most of you anyways, and happy to be here, so thanks for that. And for the last 4 years, I've been working in telecom domain. Since you guys are abundantly aware of the problems in HR, I'll talk about the telecom domain where we have been trying to and been successful at applying some of the AI solutions. But to her question about what are the challenges faced, let me tell you the problem in the first place, because otherwise I cannot express the challenge contextually. So the problem we are solving are in the sense energy and sustainability. Energy management is a big deal. Nowadays, as we roll out 5G, the problem is these are power hungry devices. To serve better, to give you the bandwidth, like 1 Gbps per user kind of a bandwidth throughput, all of it requires a lot of power consumption. And those cell towers you see and those rectangular antennas tilting like a 120-degree angle, those are actually today the ones that connect to you, talk to you like several times in a single millisecond. To be able to do that, it hogs a lot of energy. And to be able to manage that energy, they have these things called sleep modes. So to be able to turn on the sleep mode or turn it off at the right time, depending on the expected traffic or the current traffic, in a way that reduces the energy footprint, but at the same time does not take away the optimal delivery of quality of service should there be a change in the frequency of people, number of people. So all of this takes a lot of computing, and that's what AI is there to solve. Now, in solving this, coming to her question about what are the challenges faced, the challenges are along, again, this is the engineering domain. You know, you're solving telecom problems. So the problems are also that you have to solve them on the edge. If you want to use AI, here you have to have AI kind of a capability. It's far more easier if you have a SaaS-based hosting where you can also deploy your heavy lifting on the SaaS side and have the solutions, the smarts delivered on the edge. But here you have to make a millisecond, microsecond-based decision. So putting it all on the embedded, space is where the challenges lie from a hardware and, point of view. From a software and the compute point of view, the amount of data is humongous. And with 5G, as you know, is a higher, a millimeter wave, so a higher frequency kind of a communication carrier. So what happens is with higher frequency, the kind of range that gets reduced. You all know the AM radios used to have like countrywide ranges, while FMs have citywide. And 5G has a few hundred meters, whereas 4G goes in the 2-kilometer range. So because it gets absorbed so fast, there are far more towers and these devices which need to now talk to each other and far more data than ever. So if the data plane gets used by its own bandwidth in order to manage itself, that is going to be a big challenge. So apart from putting things into embedded, we also deal with this handling. How can we minimize the data transfer for managing the network itself in an intelligent way, yet provide the optimal energy consumption and quality of service to the end user? Some of the examples, there are so many I could talk all day, but I'll just hand it over to my colleagues now.
Thank you. Dr. Venugopal, moving on to you. In view of what, in your view, what are the gaps between the potential of AI and its current real-world impact?
Yeah. As I said, like, first of all, I want to define what is AI, okay? AI in a nutshell is called a paradigm, okay? So everything starts with data, okay? You have a data, and then the data has to be used for your decision making. So in the process, the first step here is, the first and foremost step is data management. You don't get cleaned data like what you get a textbook data kind of thing. So the first and foremost thing is the data which has to be managed, okay? And the managed data, we need to generate an insights. So there's a data management, then we need to use it for insight generation, then the whole process has to be automated. So this process of automation is basically, most of the processes are messy, and most of the processes are kind of where we do a lot of human intervention, and then we tend to see a lot of mistakes. Then the third and important point is in automation side of it. Then the fourth point here is, once you have that, you should also have a predictability of the data. The data what you have should able to predict something in the future, or it can predict if it is a time series kind of thing, we can predict a future, or if it is a cross-sectional kind of thing, we can use the next happening event across the similarity kind of stuff. And once you have a predictability, that predictability should lead to a concept called what you call it as it has to use for a decision making. So if you put all these 5 things together, I call it as a paradigm, okay? Predicting, okay, and then using for results orientation, and then it will be used for an all these 5 things will put as a PAIA RIDAM, okay? So that's the AI is. And if you ask the particular question about what are the real life use cases of AI, so there are 2 aspects of AI, okay, and this is a context of product management. So there are 2 concepts again here. The first concept is AI product manager and using AI in product management or product development, okay? How can you use, what is the difference between AI product manager and regular product manager? So AI product managers are basically, they generally come from a statistical background, okay? So which uses a data and then try to make some decision making from that. For every and each and every action, there will be depends upon data, okay? And what this AI use for a product management and product development, that's a different paradigm. There are a lot of AI tools where your decision making becomes very informed, okay? Most of your decision making has to be informed with the data, or it has to be backed with something. So, and now with the evolution of generative AI basically becomes most of your tasks in product management very useful. So that's the kind of thing. Coming back to your question, madam, how does real life AI is different from the generative AI? So in real life, you think that everything can be possible, okay? I think if you talk about something like for example, you ask me how an AI will be used, okay? So think back to the ages when you have to depend, when you are driving, you have to depend upon someone, okay, where you have to ask a lot of people, you have to talk to a lot of people to reach some place. Now you don't need, right? Everything comes from an, how much of time it takes, and you can give more predictive kind of thing. So that's AI will make your real lives, okay? At the same time, the products which we are trying to build, like I would like to give one highlight about the product which we are trying to build. It's called ALI, Application Lifecycle Management is a concept most of you are familiar with, but we are trying to add that management with an AI and make an application lifecycle intelligence. So when you have an applications to build, this all your applications to be an AI driven. It talks about your past experiences and past failures. That past failures will basically help you to predict the next products and next applications what you are trying to build in a more intelligent way. So these are the few things which you can use. And also we have come up with a product called CVT, which is Computer Vision Toolbox. It's a computer vision is a popular tool. We uses an image data to find out some things. But how this computer vision toolbox are used here is, we are trying to predict any kind of an, it's a detection is different, and prediction of that particular products, whether it's going to be failure or something. So what we are trying to do use here is, we are trying to use a concept called the composite AI framework, and which is kind of thing like we are trying to use the different data at one go to answer a lot of things. Like we are using a process data in a manufacturing as well as the image data, and then what we will do is, if you are trying to run a process to make a product, that particular product, whatever we are trying to build, it has to be defect free. At the same time, the process has to be streamlined.
Thank you, Venugopal.
Yeah.
Paucity of time, I'm sorry. Please keep your answers short. Krishna Chaitanya, my question to you is, what does your organization take into consideration to ensure that AI projects lead to tangible beneficial outcomes?
Sure. If if you can hear me. I'll do a quick introduction of what we do. I'm the founder and CEO of Zapero. What we basically do is we try and use generative AI to augment the creative workflows of designers in the fashion industry. What we've seen, I mean, it's been a couple of years since I started, working on this startup, and I have a business and an engineering background in the past. What we've seen is, if you see the fashion industry, right, the bottleneck there becomes the creative people. You find a lot of cool people doing all sorts of, design work, and it becomes a very solid, concrete workflow, which is difficult to disrupt. I mean, because it's difficult to program creativity, right? It's a thing of heart. I mean, it's all about arts. It's stuff like that. What we've seen a couple of years ago was that generative adversarial networks, computer vision in general, has the potential to disrupt this creative process. That was the use case we started to pursue, I think, a couple of years ago. We've seen that design is a critical component in this industry, and we thought that, building a SaaS product that can sort of mechanize this process, there is some merit to doing it. I mean, end of the day, I'm sort of walking you through the journey of an entrepreneur, because that was the use case we pursued, right? What we've realized is, while there is benefit, while there is merit to building such a product, monetizing that is very, very difficult. And we started digging deeper into the industry that we were operating in. A lot of people were happy to have AI produce interesting designs. I mean, what you would call prints. I mean, some of you are wearing fabrics which have printed artworks on top of them. It could be a women's dress or a top, etc., right? The industry in general sort of took that with a lot of excitement when we pushed forward, let's say, generative AI solutions as services. But monetizing it was difficult. And then as a company, what we've done is we've expanded our business scope much deeper. So we are now building a vertical AI. So it's no longer just design randomly, but design in the context of the market. For example, in the industry, one of the biggest problems that the fashion industry faces is dead stock, right? There's a lot of hue and cry about the industry being one of the biggest polluters, right? There's a lot of fabric being used up that's not being consumed, that finds its way into landfills, etc. Sustainability is a big problem in the industry. So it sort of comes from, let's say, the speculative nature of the industry as to how they design, what kind of volumes they commit, etc. So we are today at Zapero in the process of building AI which can produce designs that have an increased likelihood of success in the market. Right now we are sort of bringing a scientific approach to sort of committing fabric and garments. So the idea is to, as a company, make a dent in those dead stocks and sort of improve the profitability of the brands, etc. Right.
Thank you. My creative side perked me up, and I will take it offline with you to understand more about the creativity.
Definitely.
Amit, moving on to you. At Ericsson, what makes AI more accountable, accessible, and understandable for non-experts?
Oh, yeah. So that's actually, that question can be taken up in two ways. One is, how does AI become all of that for people who want to use AI to build solutions? And the other is, how do we make it trustable and explainable to the end users? And both of them are pertinent. To the first question, there has to be an AI literacy in the org. And since you ask about Ericsson, I have seen there's a huge investment in bringing everyone up to a certain level of the AI understanding, its utility, application. Because unless we are there, there is always this, either a Terminator view of AI, maybe this mic's waxing and waning, as they call it in telecom. Yeah. So basically, training and a lot of this workshops to be able to lift off the entire Ericsson as an organization to a level where everyone gets it. But now the people who solve it definitely go through the next level of understanding, and there's a constant learning in today's world that has to be there to make such things feasible. And obviously there has to be a research angle to everything an organization does, in AI at least, one who's figuring out what is possible and the other who's actually doing it there and now. So the engineering part, where me and my team are. So we have a huge research team, and then we have this Gaia team, the Global AI Accelerator team, a bunch of data scientists, engineers, and product managers who work together to realize those AI visions from a feasibility study into the production view. To the second part about explainability, trustworthy AI, reliable AI, explainable AI is like no more a wishful thinking, it is an ask. And given the privacy and the GDPR constraints about how's your AI telling something, what is the action I need to take, even from an actionability, accountability standpoint, these are becoming almost like a essential ask in every solution we give. So nowadays we have started thinking about this aspect right from the day we start building the solution. And sometimes even if it comes at a cost of a little lesser accuracy, we prefer the simpler and more explainable models, because as they call it the Occam's razor, we go for a simpler solution even if it means a little dent in the level of accuracy. At the same time, one more thing we do is to build the trust in the client, we have to have the expectations set right. Many times product managers will find themselves promising the world, curing cancer and whatnot through AI. So that's where we have to set the right expectations and say that what works, it's a probabilistic thing. It will not work every time. But over a period of time, we promise you this kind of a ROI. For example, if we are into predicting a server failure, over a period of time, we'll save you 60% of your revenues or the cost that goes into fixing, because we will be providing predictive maintenance. Last but not least, UX, which even from my experience in ADP as into building the AI products and in Ericsson, we have to keep it simple. Sometimes we get overwhelmed and just throw in all the gauges and meters and whatnots into the UI. The users don't need it. They just need to know as much as they need to know. So exploratory, analysis is what they need to find out, and progressive disclosure, like we call it in the UX parlance, right? So that's what we follow. So
Right.
I'll stop here.
Right. So moving on to the HR space, which both of us belong to, how is AI being used in ADP to improve the management and development of human capital, and what is the impact that you have observed on an employee's growth and productivity?
Okay. A bit of a loaded question, if I may say. It's a learning phase for across the board, especially in large organizations. Like I lean on what Amit mentioned about, and Mr. Dr. Venugopal also mentioned, data. Like we deal with huge, massive amounts of data. The first thing that comes to mind is, how do we have a governance model around this whole, it's definitely got everybody excited. But how can we build a governance model where we have, certain regulations to be taken care of so that we don't mess around with the data. There are data privacy laws we have to be extremely cognizant about, more from the state laws and the country laws. Then come in the client side as well, like, privacy is very critical, and that's where we thrive on as most of the organizations thrive on that aspect. It's confidential and, you don't want to give out data. So how do we protect some of those aspects? That becomes the base foundational elements as an organization. But how do we then translate that back to the employees on the ground? How do they understand about it? One is educating them. We are telling them that yes, we all are excited about this. We want to dip our hands into this. We want this to be enabling our products and solutions to give a better experience for the clients. But at the same time, we need to do it in a measured approach, in a thoughtful approach. So how do we build that ecosystem, the safe space where we can experiment, where we can fail fast, but at the same time not at the cost of data privacy and confidentiality. So we conduct a lot of these forums, like Ranjan and his team have a lot of conversations. We want to encourage and bubble up the information, speak it up. We want people to talk about it and not be hush-hush about it. That's when most of these things can come up. It also helps us understand what the expectations are. How is it that we can enable those forums where people can speak up about some of these things, come up with their ideas? How is it that they can implement, etc., right?
We have a second panel discussion. The topic being mastering product reader. We have a second panel discussion. The topic being mastering product skills in Gen AI era. I invite Hema Shivaram Krishnan, who is the moderator for this session. Welcome, Hema. I'm sorry. Haripriya Shivaram Krishnan. My sincere apologies. I'm called Hema at home, so that came naturally. Who's the moderator for this session? Haripriya, welcome. She currently is serving as a vice president at State Street Global Advisors. Prior to her role at State Street, Haripriya held key positions in prominent organizations including Citi, JP Morgan Chase and Company. Extensive experience also includes roles at Sun Microsystems, TCS, ABN AMRO Bank, NV, where she honed her skills in areas such as trade, operations, GIS analysis, and quality leadership. With her wealth of experience and expertise in the banking and business strategy domains, we welcome Haripriya to the dais and moderate the session. Our other panelists are Srinath Reddy. We are delighted to have you with us. Srinath Reddy, a dynamic, multi-skilled individual and head of technology at KK HR. Having spent almost a decade at KK and companies like Technovent, he played a pivotal role in shaping the company's technological landscape. Our second panelist is Ashish Mittal. Ashish, I know you personally as well. It's wonderful to have you here. He works with Srinidhi group of institutions. He's heading the HR department. He works as a chief HR officer. Ashish is a renowned figure in the HR industry, having earned recognition as one of Asia's 100 power leaders in HR and securing a spot in the prestigious Forbes India top 50 leaders. I think we need to give him a good applause. Also served as a general manager, head HR and deputy general manager in companies like Pearson, Infosys, BPN, Manipal International University. He has also held key position in Akshaya Patra Foundation and the Heritage Foundation. Our next panelist is Professor Raghu Reddy. He's an accomplished professional currently serving as the associate professor and head of software engineering research center at IITH. With a tenure spanning 12 years at IITH, Raghu has held pivotal roles including program head for MTech in product design and management programs, director and for PG certificate in software engineering for data science, as well as previous positions at prestigious institutions like Rochester Institute of Technology, and Colorado State University. With his extensive background and continuous contributions to the field of software engineering, we welcome you, Raghu. Our next panelist is Sai Satish Vedam, a versatile and accompanied product leader. He is a chief product officer and co-founder at the Institute of Product Leadership, where he plays a pivotal role in shaping product leadership and education. Sai Satish's career journey Sai Satish's expansive career travels around, includes a remarkable stint at Oracle. I wouldn't like to call a stint, a huge tenure, where he has held roles such as Principal Product Manager, Director of Product Management, and Senior Director of Product Management, along with contribution to Sun Microsystems. Welcome to all of you, and Haripriya, I hand it over to you.
Hello all. Is this okay? Perfect. Good morning, a very happy Friday. I think from morning we had a lot of wonderful sessions, right? And I'm very, very privileged to be among this panel. I think brings around 75 plus years of experience. So today you heard the topic, mastering product skills in the Gen AI era. What I would say is we would broadly cover, 5 themes, and I would encourage audience to keep your questions ready. We will pause in between to take some questions from you all as well. So broadly, we'll cover impact of Gen AI on the product skills, the role that HR will bring in, the product management, plus the continuous learning in Gen AI era. We'll touch a little on Indian market and specifically to organization, and last, how we build future product leaders. So with no further ado, I'll get started. Probably Professor Sai, I'll get started with you. You bring in a rich experience in product management, and your passion towards products is very, very inspiring. If I may ask, with generative AI integrating with product life cycle, how do you think the traditional skills will have to diversify to, kind of blend into the new one?
Okay. So allow me for 30 seconds
Sure.
to just understand our audience.
Perfect.
Like a good product manager, you should really understand whose needs are you addressing and how you're going to do that. So a really quick question. How many of you here are in product management roles with more than 10 plus years experience, or more than 10 years? Or at least you think you are in a product manager role? Now I'll tell you why I'm asking that. Because we have very creative titles in India, isn't it? For product managers especially. You could be a requirement scientist for all you know. This is an emerging title in many companies that I see, right? So good, so about 30% of you are in product roles with at least 10 plus years experience. The remaining ones either are aspiring to get into that role or you are curious about that. That's my assumption, right? Aspiring to and do that. Okay, so now before I jump into and answer that generative AI thing specifically, let me here is the perspectives that I will bring in. There are 3 points of view that I will bring in, right? The first one is for all the programs that this IPL, not the other IPL, Institute of Product Leadership, works with lots of industry practitioners and leaders who are building products in various companies, building companies, right? And continuously we work with them. And one question we ask them regularly: what is changing in the landscape that you think we should bring about to help people get better at? This is a continuous question that I ask. That's a first perspective. The second one is the hiring manager's perspective. Because almost about 8 to 9 companies every month come to hire at IPL, and all of them are looking at different skills, and are they changing? So how important is generative AI? Are they looking for any of those skills right now while hiring? And the third one, my own journey, my own perspectives as a product coach, as an executive coach, who I work with hundreds of people in helping them transition into those careers. Now, fourth, I did not do deliberately. I have not consulted ChatGPT. Right? So these are the 3 points of views that I will try to bring in so that you know where they are coming from, right? Now, I'd like to jump in and talk about, before generative AI, what are the core product skills? And there are lots of competencies in that, right? And just to level set everybody's understanding, at least for the purpose of this discussion, I want to frame what product management is. As I said, there is lots and lots of definitions, lots of misunderstanding in the industry. I spent 25 years working as an engineer, 14 years as a product manager and product leader, and I work with hundreds of companies which are trying to hire, right? So when I say product management, I'm referring to role, not a title. And so what is that role? That role is very simple, very difficult to achieve, but very simple. It's an art and science of identifying the market needs and driving the team towards creating compelling, profitable, and competitive products. Now, there are a few key words here. The art and science. Second one is driving the team. Now, if you're a product owner, you might be thinking you own the product. And a lot of you may have heard of these cliches that product manager is the CEO of the product. Right? You are driving the team towards creating compelling, competitive, and profitable products. That's it. That is essentially product management. Now, in that context, what are the core skills? Market analysis, which has many competencies. I won't go into that unless you have questions, right? And because we want to see how generative AI now impacts or influences all these things. Strategic planning, product planning, go-to-market, and sales enablement. The go-to-market and sales enablement part comes at a product leadership level where you interlock with product marketing and do that. But the first three, market analysis, strategic planning, and product planning in the context of products are super important. So now let's bring in this new beast.
The Gen AI.
About, right? The generative AI. Now, I'm sure everybody has heard, and that's why you're all here. And I believe we are at a tipping point of the hype curve right now. Right? You guys know the hype curve, right? The next one is trough of disillusionment. I hope it doesn't fall into that, because lots, and I've seen in my own career 7 such disruptive things come. Some of them stuck around, some of them just went away. But this is truly disruptive. There's no doubt about it. Right? I hope you guys can hear me, right? Yeah. Now, if you look at every such skill that I talked about, there are 2 ways to think how you as a product manager can leverage this generative AI part of it. When I say generative AI, I'm not just talking about the large language models of text, but also image, audio, video, all kinds of content. Right? Now, you put this into 2 categories. One, you as an individual product manager working towards improving your efficiencies and speed up your creative process. Today, that's where the most use is. The second part typically is generative AI in the enterprise, which means companies trying to leverage that to build products to compelling experiences. Now that has a long way to go, and I have my reasons, and I'll come to that later, right? But every aspect, including market analysis, which basically involves customer insighting, validation, competitive analysis, right? Strategic planning includes product strategy, portfolio analysis, and these things, right? And the third one, product planning, which a lot of product managers in India are currently in, which is requirements management, requirements definition, user stories, prioritization, roadmaps, and design. This is a subset of the overall product management skills, right? Would you agree? The most of the PMs in India especially are in that product planning stage. Now, every step, every competency can be, 10x, 50x improved in terms of productivity and efficiency with Gen AI. I can give several, I'm sure panel has lots of examples to do that. Right? Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Raghu, maybe I'll shift gears to understand. I know you're leading the product management and design at IT and has also been leading the data science and software work streams here. So if you have to pinpoint on the specific skill set or competency that you would require from the traditional, whatever we have seen, I think Professor Sai touched a bit, if you can throw some light with your experience.
Thank you, Haripriya. So I guess, so we are in the zillionth Gen AI panel, and I'm sure out there in Mars, there's one more probably going on in terms of Gen AI panels. That's how it's become, right? So every other street you turn to in an IT city, you will probably find a Gen AI panel. Fortunate or unfortunate, I'll leave it up to you guys, right? I know he touched upon a lot, and I'm sure from a product management perspective, right? So broadly, if you look at a product, I would want to at least divide it from an engineering lifecycle perspective and a management lifecycle perspective. And a lot of talk goes on from a management lifecycle perspective, right? We also, as product managers, need to look at the engineering lifecycle perspective. And to me, there's a lot that will probably happen from an engineering lifecycle perspective, because unless you drill down to actually being able to identify what's the specific support, right, that's available. And when I say support, it's not just in your team, it's the ecosystem. What support does the ecosystem provide you? If you don't have it, your product is bound to fail. No matter how complex your algorithm is, or how exaggerant or fantastic your actual management life cycle is. It does not matter, right? Ultimately, you have to have the supporting ecosystem. And that requires a lot of tool support, right? So to me, a lot of skill set, at least from an engineering life cycle perspective, needs to go into building these tools and managing these tools, right? Don't look at it as a large product, right? Small products, whatever that might be, that's going to support. Because you have a life cycle where you're looking at a traditional engineering life cycle going from requirements all the way to maintenance, right? And of course, at some point, end of life. And everywhere at this point, you'll have to look at what's the skill set needed to develop these tools and manage these tools. That to me is more important. Whether it be, let's say, I'm building a tool set for math, right? What's the mathematical knowledge that I need to build this tool set and use Gen AI to generate maybe a step-by-step solution for a particular math problem, right? Whether it's a SciMath or a, Wolfram Alpha type tool, for example. Or maybe you're developing a product, I need to create design prototypes, right? What's the specific tool set that's needed? Because it's not just, plug and play. You're typically looking at tailoring a particular solution, because it's not as if you're going to use ChatGPT as it is. It's not as if you're going to use Llama 2 as it is, right? Your large brain, which are the large LLMs, have to be transferred into a small brain. That's the skill set that's needed. How do I transfer them and apply it in the context of your particular solution? Generics, yeah, well and good, that ChatGPT can provide, right? But as managers, how do we bring that value? The additional add-on values is that transfer of knowledge to your problem, your product, your organization.
Absolutely, and in the tea break, he also touched upon how engineering is one of the key streams, and it was good to know the statistics, 68% research still happening on computer. Thanks for that. I'll move into understanding the HR role. Mr. Ashish, your experience in HR spans across, corporates, NGOs, which is very interesting, and also academia. And you stress a lot upon work-life balance too, so it's interesting. Could you share insights on how HR practices and talent acquisition strategies have adapted in response to the changing technologies?
Sure, thank you so much. So I'm going to start actually, I would say I would like to, with the Gen AI, I would like to focus on 3 key areas. Okay, we're looking because as the HR leaders, we are bombarded day and night. Every day is a different day for HR leaders. You can ask anybody, and nobody knows where we are going to be for the next 15 minutes. So 3 main areas where you are looking is, first is improved efficiency. Okay, so point over here is, since there's a lot of data and we want quick analysis, and so we want generative AI to help HR leaders to take better informed decisions. Okay, and so with this context, I would like to share one particular incident which just happened on 5th September, 3 days back. I'm just linking that, it just struck me just a few seconds back, and I thought this is the best place. 5th September, I kind of reached home around 6 p.m. I was completely exhausted. Last 3 days were kind of roller coaster ride. And I was about to hit the sack. And just when I got a call from one of the senior academicians, I do not know why he called me, probably, yes, he knows me pretty well. He said, Ashish, I have decided that I want to commit suicide in the next 15 minutes. Of all the blues, I received this call. I was zapped. And I said, yes, this person definitely needs my help. And I said, just give me 20 seconds. I just had 20 seconds to take a decision. I had not done any physical fitness for the last 3 days. So I said, let me carry my power bank, let me carry my Bluetooth set. And I decided, and I connected with him, had a non-stop conversation for 4 hours non-stop. Understood his entire problems, what he or she was going through, gave a resolution, and after 4 hours, he was completely decided normal. And the challenge didn't end over here. I had 2 more employees, major escalations. They wanted my time. I said, Ashish, anyways, I'm walking, so let me just continue my walk. So the question which rang to my mind, today was, as we have so many PMs, project managers sitting in this room, can we do something what if I had a board review presentation next day? And if I didn't have time, because you don't know. So can there some tools be developed which can actually help, we call it early warning indicators, wherein a person is not well, mental wellness, so that the right help is provided to the right individual at the right time. We're talking about Industry 5.0, which talks about technology taking care of human beings, right? So is there some kind of tool? Secondly, as HR leaders, we want all the routine works, redundant transactional works to be taken over by Gen AI so that we can actually focus on strategic areas. We can understand interacting with the employees, trying to understand their pain points, and trying to see that we can give our best. So this is one of the key things, and yes, so I would say a lot of expectations are there in terms of from Gen AI, from an HR perspective. We are looking how to make the life of HR leaders work at a very strategic level, removing all the transactional jobs out.
Thank you, Mr. Ashish. Mr. Trunath, I know Keka urges us to reimagine HR, right? So, we always talk about Workday, so I was just trying to understand how is Keka bringing a change. So, in your experience with HR technology, what innovative tools and solutions could help HR professionals in assessing the right candidates?
So, at Keka, we have kept employee experience in the forefront. In fact, we go by for the love of employee experience. Let me take a simple journey of an employee where it starts, right from employee persona and from hiring manager persona that we touched, and the well-being of an employee. So in most of the cases, the tools, the technology where it can enable for a hiring manager when he gets to screen hundreds of resumes, be it 500, 600, because of the volume of resumes or the candidates, inflow of the candidates that they are getting, they typically go with algorithmic sorting kind of thing where they add some blind rules, 4+ years of experience, or we should have so and so XYZ skill set. Rather, in this era, you can avoid or you can overcome those kind of bias, trying to understand the skills, the responsibilities that you need for a particular role, and mapping with the candidate resume. You can analyze with the tools that we have today. You can analyze and summarize the experiences that he come from, rather doing blind check with skills and the keywords that are there in the resumes. Coming to the employee well-being, if we touch the next aspect of it, which is the primary essence of function of the HR, there are many micro interactions that you get signs of an employee. If they are applying for a leave, how was their day? If they are just applying for a leave, we can simply check the pulse of an employee, a kind of a thing where you just rate. They're still, I'm happy, I'm not happy, it's not a right day for me, it's not a great day. With these indications, over time, it will be able to tell you the pulse of an employee, how they are feeling in an organization, overall, what's the happiness indicator in the organization, which will greatly help the HR personnel to gauge the mood in the organization or the teams. Or if you further drill down, you get to know which teams are having more sort of issues, or which teams are not feeling great at work, and how you can connect or align with your organization goal. So these are few factors where technology can enable and bridge the gap between the HR personnel and the employees.
Very interesting. I think a lot of personalization, we try and do that as well to get into candidates. Before we switch gears to understanding about the continuous learning, let me pause to see if any questions from audience. We can take one question from audience. Please go ahead. Why don't you call out your name and then ask your question?
Thank you. So one thing that has been coming out to the fore is sifting through resumes and helping hiring managers take those right calls. So whenever you're using GenAI, there can be two aspects to it. One, you are using it as a mere language model trying to understand the keywords. And the other is an outcome-based GenAI where you are actually understanding what led to successful outcomes. So when you're sifting through resumes, there could be numerous biases of hiring managers which might impact outcomes. So, like for example, there could be very well a case where certain kind of people from a certain colleges or... All right. So my question is, how will you manage these biases if you are using GenAI to sift through resumes?
Mr. Trunath, you want to give a try?
So with GenAI, particularly with GenAI, if hiring managers are going through the profile, see, one thing is for sure, GenAI is not going to replace the human factor of hiring manager and his decision-making skills. It's just going to be an assistant for him, or kind of AI assistant or a co-pilot, which is working with the hiring managers and giving indicators which profiles are a good match for the given role. And in fact, GenAI can in fact even hide the details like demographics of a candidate or gender of a candidate, where you can configure in the products, which will reduce the biasing factor to a great extent. It's more of matching the responsibilities that you need for a particular job and the experience that the candidate carry.
Thank
Just to
you.
add on
Yeah,
just one
sure.
context to it. In HR, we have something called as blind hiring. Okay, so we do the blind hiring for a few roles alone. So of course, it's debatable, but we're behind all the demographics, everything, so that we can just focus on the skill set alone and not anything else. So there we kind of help to reduce all the various biases.
I want to give a simple answer. I don't think anything changes because of Gen AI. Okay. The problem of fairness and bias has existed since 1980s, right? Gen AI, just because the buzzword came in, nothing has changed. So you would still want fairness, you would still want bias to be eliminated. And what's the background, what's the data set that's needed, what's the balancing that's needed from your entire data sources, that still applies.
Thank you. We'll try and understand right now about a little on continuous learning. Professor Sai, you have played the role of product management, a coach, been a co-founder as well, I think, and been in academia. So you bring in all together, right? So in this evolving Gen AI landscape, how crucial is continuous learning, and what is your suggestion for individual learning as well?
Well, I think there's no debate about continuous learning, irrespective of generative AI,
yeah.
right? But here's a slight difference that I'm at least viewing it as. I believe that we are kind of at a tipping point of what was called as a knowledge era for a long time, which means the intent of accumulating knowledge through a learning continuous habit. It's a habit, right? Some people have developed that habit because I want to accumulate knowledge. I don't know when it'll come to use, whenever it comes to use, and I have a phrase for this, it's called inventory of skills. Right? So a lot of people have that, and it served well for a while. I believe now, because a lot of things are very dynamic and complex, we are shifting to what I call as a single loop and double loop based learning. Let me explain that single loop and double loop. Single loop is very simple. An event has happened, and you have observed the result. Now you need to analyze that and figure out why it has happened and come up with a solution for it, which is what most of us do, right? But we are doing these things repeatedly, continuously, and at a rapid pace now. And what that means is there is no time for deep learning, pun intended, right? There is really no time for spending enough time to learn. So we have to learn things very efficiently, rapidly, and move on, right? Yeah. So now double loop learning is after you analyze and make a decision, it's important to take a pause and say, can this be applicable in any other situation? Now that is something that I believe we all have to ask, right? And this is where I strongly believe it's not just about Gen AI. Gen AI is going to accelerate this. Is interdisciplinary learning is going to become critical. Because things that have happened in your world are going to be applicable and can be made applicable in other, which has always been there. It's going to become more urgent. So if you are the person who are able to connect these dots together across disciplines, right? You may come from engineering. I come from engineering. I was part of the team that built Java, right? And that experience, don't leave it there. Now, are you able to connect with some other, chaotic scenario in business? And to me and so I'll summarize in two parts, right? There is something called extraction and there is something called transfer in learning. Extraction is what I just talked about. What will you draw from it? And so that not with the intent of solving that particular thing, but able to apply it in different contexts. Now, transfer is super critical because transfer includes linking, as we said, connected. And I strongly encourage and urge many of you to start teaching. Teaching is the best way of learning anything, right? In whatever way that you can. If you develop this habit of teaching, then the moment you read something, the moment you experiment something, and you go and talk about it, you go and tell 10 other people, that sticks in your mind.
Thank you. And I'll bring it to our organization, like stated, wherein everybody wants to be in part of Gen AI, right? That's the latest one. So you're, like you said, the interdisciplinary skills, that's really going to move people, mobilize people internally. I think that's going to be a great support as well. Mr. Ashish, you have penned a very good article on power of employee experience. Why don't you talk about, as HR professional, what strategies and resources do you believe are efficient in continuous learning?
So I would actually just like to walk 2 steps back and say,
Sure.
in terms of skills, because today's skill itself become like a commodity, just like a product has a product life cycle. We know that what skills we have today, high possibility it'll be redundant, outdated in the next 2 years. Unlike the olden times, like you just learn something and you're going to retire with that skills. So I think today one of the areas which as HR leaders where we are trying to focus is more on personalized learning, because it's not one shoe fits all. Everybody in the education space, we talk about bite-sized learning, micro-sized learning, right? So because employees want to learn at their own pace, right? They want to probably learn at night 12 or morning 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., whatever. They need to have the right tools, right infrastructure, right facilities, right opportunities for them. So as HR leaders, we try to ensure that we provide this best personalized learning, because this personalized learning will help us to get a lot of data, which particular concept a particular employee has understood or not understood. So with this, we are able to understand and provide the right kind of training inputs and training programs for employees at an org level. So this is what I want.
Yeah, perfect. And I think that will lead to what Mr. Trinidad touched on, happiness index probably. So that's good. Professor Raghu, I'm sure you have addressed many, Gen AI kind of discussions, but can you share some insights and strategies that would be more efficient for an Indian market? If you can touch a little about that.
Okay. Now that's an interesting question, especially because a lot of us obviously always talk about what's happening in US, what's happening in Europe, right? And just curious again, going back to what you started out with, how many of you actually have even looked at LLMs from India? Any LLM from India? Have you even heard about it?
Yoga GPT, Gita GPT, no? Okay.
Huh? It's now 9.5 months since OpenAI released its first version, right? And I'm surprised we haven't heard, right? That in itself should give us an answer why we need to work with an India-specific context, right? Especially with huge governmental support in terms of language. Projects like Bhashini, which do machine translation from multiple languages, right? So you start looking at it, you want to build data sets which are India specific, whatever be the case. Forget about LLMs. Start off by looking at data sets that are India specific. Data sets for Indian driving conditions. And look at it, we are talking about autonomous driving cars, ADAS level 1, and then I proudly come back and say, oh, mine is level 2. And then we really don't understand what is level 2 in an Indian context. Right? What does it really mean to have ADAS level 2 in an Indian context? No, it's really different from level 1 in US versus level 4 in US versus here, right? So I would probably say that we need to start looking at building data sets as the first step from an Indian context. That will give us a lot more problems that are India specific, not just language, education, right? How do you educate? We talk about personalization. All these models, all these training sets are from somewhere. Can I now use that on some random person who's there in Chhattisgarh? It has to be contextual, right? We talk about prompt engineering. That's the latest. Designation, isn't it? Prompt engineer. I want to be a prompt engineer. Your prompt engineer, unfortunately, is based on US data. So start thinking about it, and this is a genuine request to all the managers out here who are building products, right? Please look at creating India-specific models.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think tying it back to what Professor Ramesh spoke in the morning as well. Indians, instead of Bay Area, Indians for Indian market, right? That's something that he touched upon. Very interesting. Thank you.
I don't know, let me ask you and the audience here. In March, in one of the big forums of MIT, Ashwini Kumar gave a hint when the interviewer asked him, so when is India going to have its Chat GPT moment? Did anybody watch that? Or maybe I'm the only obscure guy who's watching this stuff. So he actually asked this very specific question. So when is India going to have its Chat GPT moment? And you know what he said? Just wait for 2 more weeks and you will be surprised. Hold on, that happened in March. And I was equally excited as you. I'm still excited, I don't know what about. Right? I'm sure there is a lot of stuff going on. But I think, everybody, especially in public domain, open source projects, these are the ones that need to contribute essentially, just to summarize Raghu's thing, number one, when we talk about LLMs, we are talking about 4 things: data, language, and context. 3 things. That's all. But we have to build these 3 things, and it's not an easy job. I know engineering head, a CTO of a company called Reverie Technologies, who's actually an alumni of IPL, but this guy runs an engineering team who's doing a real-time translation of Indian language websites. Real-time, through mobile apps and everything. Right? So some interesting work, but to your point, I think the responsibility is in all of us. There's nothing else.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll do one last question to this panel. Trinath, maybe I'll start with you. What are the key insights you share regarding the role of bridging academia, bringing and building future product leaders? Where do you think we should, what we should do to be future ready, I would say?
So I'll start with open source contributions. That's something that is going to help students and particularly academia to understand what's happening in the space. There are many interesting projects, and if we talk about if we speak about we have Swecha, which does a lot of events around. A couple of you might have heard about it as well, where they have been doing sessions on different technologies and primarily focused on the open source technologies, where gathering industry experts, students, and then encouraging them for the contributions. The recent projects, like they have been working on one of the transport module to help understand the timings of metro or timings of public transport, where they're building an app particularly for different metro cities. So contributing for these open source projects is going to greatly help bridge the gap between the needs of the industry and the academia as well.
Perfect. Mr. Ashish, your thoughts on how do we, bridge the gap between, academia and the industry, if I may say?
See, one of the biggest aspects is, today we churn out a lot of students, IITs, IIMs, or various universities. But how well are they kind of having an industry exposure? Because gone are the days of bookish knowledge, right? And we have ChatGPT and various tools. So I think the best way to bridge the gap is to give them real-time projects, and also have a lot of academicians do work in the industry, so that they are able to go and translate and add value to the students, so that the students understand the concepts and also how to apply these concepts on a day-to-day basis. So once these two are kind of mixed, that will really help the students.
No, absolutely. I'll echo that. I'm also pursuing my executive MBA product leadership, and the product labs. That is one of the interesting thing, wherein we learn experiential learning, a lot of learning. While in theory you can learn, and Professor Raghu, we just touched a little about that. So why don't you give your insights there?
Okay, I guess as an academic I should have a better answer, right?
Absolutely.
So I'll first of all start by saying I don't think we should look at ChatGPT as a competitor. Okay, see, unfortunately what happens is, as academics, we are always afraid of change, right? So when things come along, technology comes in, we tend to fight it rather than embrace it, right? And to us, at least from IIIT's perspective, I can say, I think we encourage people to use ChatGPT. You want to write a programming assignment, it's not about finding the solution. Okay? In fact, a lot of instructors I know, for example, if you create a programming assignment, they would start off with ChatGPT and create the programming assignment, and then tweak it, because ChatGPT can't act on it anymore. Now it's about understanding the program and the nuances of the program, rather than just trying to build a program, right? That's where you start kind of thinking about the mind and what sort of changes should somebody, learn as part of programming, for example, right? Going back to the whole real life experience, for example. So we have been running, at least I personally have been running a course which is taught to the sophomore students, second year undergrad engineering students. It's called Software Systems Analysis and Design, right? And the course fundamentally requires a 3.5 month, 4 month project that they have to do. And these projects have real clients. And when I say real clients, these are, projects that are actually elicited by industry people, including startups. They will propose a project, we scope it down in the context of what you can do in 4 months, and the student is expected to deliver, including deploy their particular piece of prototype as part of the project, right?
Wow.
And so this is built into their second year curriculum itself. So as a result, we don't think there is that much problem. They don't get scared of anything hands-on, right? So devil is in the details. You basically ensure your hand in addition to your brain also works.
Absolutely. And Professor Sai, you keep encouraging to use ChatGPT. He would say, use whatever, but show me what prompt you used, right? So you may want to conclude on this topic.
Yeah, no. I kind of straddle both worlds, and which is unfortunate in certain ways. But I think let's take two parties here. One, we said the academic institutions.
Right.
The other one is all our companies, industry where we work in. On the first part, I think I'm seeing changes, and I believe it's going to happen a lot more. Is number one, weaving this generative AI usage into every assessment, every project, and basically say, go use it, right? And I'll give you a simple example. I teach product strategy in the executive MBA program, and for a couple of years, one of the basic assessment was take a company, pick your favorite company, and do a strategic analysis of that company, right? So the strategic analysis has several elements: internal, external, political, economical, business related, all kinds of things. If you have to really do it well, it would take you 3 weeks. And today, you can do a strategic analysis reasonably well with hallucinations. Now, if you don't know the word hallucinations, it's okay, you're spared, right? You can do that strategic analysis in 3 minutes. But you have to iterate and iterate to get to that right thing to ask, right question to ask to get that strategic analysis. But what I'm saying is, don't ask students to, or don't evaluate students on the output. Evaluate students on the critical thinking, right? Which means, how did you get this, and why did you consider not? And several institutes that I'm seeing are changing that part. So that's on the participants, students part. Students doesn't mean just college students, right? Anybody who's learning.
Yeah.
And on the other side, which is an industry, I believe institutes like IIIT are doing enormous amount of research.
Yeah.
And we as industry need to partner with to commercialize, to productize those research, right? If that is not happening, we will be for a long time, we have been solving customer problems of some other country. Of course, we've been doing that now for the last 7 or 8 years. We've been focusing on our own needs and our own problems, which is good. But there's a lot of incredible amount of research that is happening in institutes like this. And so to me, bringing that and formalizing that structure is the only way to do it.
Thank you. Very, very interesting discussion. We'll
take
ask
two
two questions from the panel.
Yeah, we can take
audience.
2 questions quickly, and short questions, please.
So we'll take the middle one.
One from the lady and one from the Thank you. My question is more around application of AI in the real life products. So what are the risks, privacy issues, ethical implications and compliance, legal compliance, challenges that you have seen with the real life, applying Gen AI in the real life products?
I think more towards data privacy. How do you manage that in this, Professor Sai, you want to take this?
So quickly, I think there are 2 aspects to it again. One is there is a lot of reluctance. And by the way, I said one of the perspectives, I speak to lots of these product leaders who are leading product initiatives and how you're bringing that. Something came out very interesting. 39% of the companies, at least among 20 odd companies that I talked to, basically said they have no intent of doing anything with Gen AI in this year, which is fascinating. Whereas 37% of them said that we are actually starting to create some experiments. Now, why is this, while the whole world is talking about all of these things, the organizations are taking a very cautious approach, not because the technology is not mature or anything. It's because of simple reasons. Number one, lack of domain-specific models is number one thing.
Absolutely.
Right? We have generic LLMs, large foundational models that were built on public data, who knows what it is. But your business, for example, State Street,
yes,
is a financial services company. You have your own ontologies, you have your own context and data. So domain-specific models are being built. So that is going to take some time. Now there are different approaches different companies are taking to that. The second part is this access control, right, privacy, data security, right? You cannot just open up these public large language models to everyone in the company. How many companies have banned this inside your company network? Right? This is because you can upload any kind of data, nobody knows. There is a clear violation of access controls there. So companies are trying to figure out, how do we do this? Now, there are a few companies who have isolated containers where they are doing these experiments. There are companies that are doing enterprise versions of this ChatGPT, which is horrible, by the way. It's very expensive and all
Very
of that,
the
right?
cost, yeah.
So a lot of things. Now, the other side of your question, which is from a customer experience standpoint, there is, as Professor Raghu said, there is going to be an inevitable and there is already inevitable bias. Bias is something that can only be done if your data on which you have trained the models is bias-free, which is incredibly hard, but you have to make those. You have to fine-tune those foundational models. Otherwise, it will impact the end users in any way. But in other cases, personalization is superb. Now, data privacy, I worked for a company whose CEO said 25 years ago, there is no privacy, get over it. I will stick by it.
All right, we'll take one last question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So my question is on the other side, like we know the advantages we have been speaking about, but if we take a look on the other side, like we know, like on the past election, in US elections, there was some bots which were on the Twitter, which were tweeting and all. So how do we see that in Indian elections as well, or we have the general elections coming?
Oh, it's happening.
So
Professor Raghu, yeah.
Yeah, I like that question. See, I think if you want a managerial perspective, you do a SWOT analysis, right? But if you really start thinking about it, as recently as I think 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, there was a major report that came out about the problems with AI, right? And that applies to Gen AI as well, whether it is ethics, fairness, bias, whatever are these characteristic qualities that you typically associate with any system will probably exist with AI-based system, right? So how do you handle it? That's where the real question is, whether it is prompt injections or whether it is hallucinations or any of these new issues. Of course, the verbiage changes, right? But ultimately, what do you want? You want factuality, right? The new words keep popping up. Eventually, think about it. You want a system to be correct. True? It's not because of AI. Whatever be the system, you want the system to be correct. Now, can you reduce the probability of your output, wherein your output is giving facts or realistic enough that they are equivalent to facts? That's where I think research is probably going to go in, and a lot of this research is directly translated to whatever applications is being built, whether it is for, politics, whether it is for Times of India or whatever, to give these election analysis, right? Ultimately, they are not building anything. It's people like us who are building things and they are using it, right? Unfortunate thing is they probably plug in data that suits them best. That's where the real problem is.
Well, I love this because I actually have been part of a political party for a long time, card-carrying member. I have deep interest in politics because that's the only way transformative change happens, and I truly believe that. And I also worked with lots of political consulting organizations to understand what they do. At least there's one company in Bangalore called Rajniti. This is a political consulting company. They are using AI beautifully. Now, how the output, what they use it for, I don't know. They won't tell you, right? We will only know after the results come out. But exactly the same tools that we are building, all of us are building, are being used for different applications, just one other application, right? If you have not watched the Cambridge Analytica documentary on Netflix, that will show you a lot of answers.
Okay. So just one last thought. If anybody is interested in building a Play Store for LLMs, please come and talk to me.
Interesting. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I resonate with what you said. Teaching is the most gratifying job ever. I'll take 30 seconds to tell you an incident. When I was all of 10 years old, 6th class, my mother has always been a teacher all her life. And she said teaching is the best profession, and I mocked at her. And for the last 13 years that I've been teaching, every time I enter the class, I kick myself and tell, Mummy, you were so right.
It's also a poor profession in this country.
Very badly paid, yes. Ashish, I have a quick question for you. As with all the AI and generative AI, etc., the youngsters who are coming into the organizations, who've got lots of fire in the belly, but they have things to do quickly. So is it going to help them not do their jobs correctly?
See, I'm just saying today it poses a lot of challenge actually. See, because everybody wants probably 2 minutes Maggi noodles. So my point is, today we have a very mixed gen set working in an organization. We have baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, millennials. So people want to do a smart work, not a hard work, right? They want to smart work, just finish it off and present it at the earliest. So definitely it is going to put a bit of challenge in terms of how we are going to assess their quality of work, because it's not just a tick mark. And second thing, just slightly digressing, I would also say one of the biggest key challenges is from a talent acquisition perspective. Today, for one job we advertise, trust me, there are more than 1,000 applications. Few months back, I was very happy with my team. Oh wow, what a well-constructed CV. Right choice of words. 4 months back, I saw 90% of CVs had the same language, ChatGPT. Same thing applies sick leaves today, right? I mean, your exit interviews, your resignation mails. It's all ChatGPT stuff coming. It's like so sick to read those mails because there's nothing personally involved in it. So I'm actually questioning myself as so many product managers. We should really try to see something, how it really helps HR, talent acquisition team to get the right talent for the right job. That's extremely important because with the use of AI, most of the CVs have the same buzzwords, same catchwords.
We actually had this product many years ago before AI called bullshit detector.
All right.
I don't know if you know this, but I'll tell you.
I think it's
offline.
Yeah.
Thank you, Haripriya, for moderating the session. Thank you, Sai Satish, Raghu Reddy, Ashish, and Trinath. I request, please be seated. I request Raj to honor the guests, please. Let's have a round of applause. Give them the bags also. Thank you so much. Thank you, Haripriya, and the rest of the gentlemen out here. Group picture, please. I think a lot of bottles are seen. Why don't you come before that? Why don't you stand over there? Yeah. Thank you. That's my water. Let it be. We now have our expert talk. Our next item of the agenda is an expert talk, Building a Project Management Community by Chandrasekhar Samra. Chandrasekhar is a distinguished Senior Director of Product Management at ADP with over 17 years of expertise in product management. With previous roles in NCR, Adobe, and Avaya, he's a seasoned leader known for successfully launching new products, achieving product market fit, and driving imperative growth for Fortune 500 companies. Proficient in Agile and SAFE technologies, Chandra excels in product strategy, life life cycle management, and leading cross-functional teams. His skills in competitive analysis and market research further enhance his value in the field, making a career characterized by innovation and product excellence. I invite Chandrasekhar onto the stage, please.
Yeah, I think this is okay. Good afternoon. I feel a little different being on the stage here because it was quite populated till recently. I am feeling lonely, and we are getting close to lunchtime, so we'll try to wrap this up pretty quick. Okay. All right, while we get the slides up, a quick introduction about myself. I'm Chandra. I'm part of the ADP product management team. Been a product manager for quite some time, almost a decade. ADP is always designing for people. As you heard from Ranjan in the morning, we are 18 billion plus in revenue. Number one HCM company globally. We have clients across 140 different countries, 1 million plus clients. I don't think many of the companies can say that. Remember, our clients are pretty large. We have clients like Amazon, Sodexo, and so on, all the way from small business. Is it up yet? Nope. And recently, when it comes to Gen AI, we have been following a principle of make it easy, smart, and human. You would have heard that in the morning. So you will see a lot of reference to the content that I've got in here today is going to be in the backdrop of that this is potentially very specific to a B2B setup, a large company like ADP with a big product organization based out of India. All right, thank you. So we have talked about Gen AI since morning. So this is all being future ready. So we would like to have our product leaders, especially for a lot of large companies based out of India. We have seen a good number of product managers being recruited, hired, groomed internally in the recent past, in the last 5 to 10 years. So what does this really mean for all of us sitting in this hall here? So that's really the topic. I've got a few slides to take the conversation forward, but we'll try to keep it very interactive. I'll try to make some logical pauses in between a few slides, and feel free to ask questions. This is me sharing some of the learning from my side, but I'm sure collectively we can share a little bit more. Okay? So with that, we'll get started. And hopefully this will work. Yes. So that's the agenda. We'll start with a quick recap of what we have been hearing since morning. What does Gen AI really mean for product managers and product leaders? So Gen AI really brings in, I think we have heard since morning that a lot of new evolving use cases, right? And interestingly, I think we as product managers, we have got enough use cases in our backlog, right? As if we didn't have enough. We have use cases coming all the way from senior executives, from our customers, from everywhere. So Gen AI is just adding to it, right? So, however, this creates an opportunity in terms of use cases. Like one of the examples which was talked in the morning was the concept of creating job descriptions. We have been thinking about this quite a lot in the past. However, with the advent of Gen AI, this has gotten a little closer. Of course, we need to fine-tune it, we need to improve it, but that certainly has helped. Second, in terms of changing market landscape, in the last like 9 months or so, we have heard of many startups which have come in, and every large company is trying to play a role in Gen AI, right? So that certainly plays, has a dynamics in terms of what we do as a product manager day in, day out. we have seen a lot of companies talk about Copilot in their respective space. Today in the panel discussion also we heard that. Third, embracing a lot of regulatory compliances. I think in the morning we heard about scenarios or use cases around candidate relevancy, where I'm trying to stack rank candidates based on the resume versus the fitment with the job description and so on. However, we have got a few states in the US who are basically saying that you actually need to give that option to the candidate whether they want to opt out from their resume being screened by AI. So that's a new regulation which is coming in. And many states are actually trying to get that in front of their population. So as product managers, we had to react quickly to those regulations. So that certainly is one of those things. Being ethical. We as ADP, as an example, we have data for 1 million plus clients, and that data is a gold mine of information. However, we want to be very careful in terms of how do we use that data, right? So being ethical in terms of how we use the data becomes critical. Finally, for a large company like ADP, and I think most of the, I've seen folks from ServiceNow, Pega, and so on, so these are fairly large companies. And for many of these large companies, we typically have a large suite of products, a large portfolio. And when GenAI comes in, it is not just, I'm not trying to solve one specific use cases, we have to solve the use case across these products. And managing that scale of innovation for a large company, potentially a company which has evolved over years, is not that easy, right? So that's another additional challenge. So how do we manage these challenges as we go forward? I think we try to answer that. Is it me or something? Okay. Thank you. How do we manage this? So the first thing is, we in ADP, we have been investing in continuous learning. And this continuous learning is very specific to product management 101. I think we heard enough in the morning that whatever be the case, Gen AI or something else, knowing the customer, the product management 101 goes nowhere. So we need to keep learning and making sure that as we hire more product managers, as we get more product managers into our organization internally, we want to make sure we are giving them enough tools and frameworks from a product management fundamental perspective. And that is what we have been doing in ADP in the recent past. Now, it's equally important that these trainings and these boot camps are practitioner-led, because we do want to make sure that anything that is shared with the product managers, new product managers, are based on the experience of the practitioners. So that's been one of the focus, and I think that would apply to any other company. Solving real-life problems goes without saying. I think we had multiple boot camps where we talked about specific use cases in the area of talent acquisition, talent management, where we were trying to throw those problems at the new product managers and solve them using these frameworks that they may have learned in the classroom. We partnered with a good number of B schools as well to bring in some fresh new ideas, right? And I think the last point is very important. We heard that during the conversation. We as product managers, especially, I think most of the product management organization in India has been built with the advent of agile, safe, whatever you call it, right? Starting with the product owners. And we are pretty good in terms of execution and the solution space. But what's equally important for us to innovate is we become comfortable with the problem space. And that's been the focus for us. Okay? Customer at the center, nothing new. I think we have talked about it enough, right? Now, how do we do this? Being so many miles away from the customers, for probably most of us in this room, because our customers are sitting either in the US or in most cases in the developed economies in Europe and so on, right? So how do we solve this? Of course, we try our best in terms of meeting the customers in person or over on the phone call, WebEx calls, and so on. But for ADP, over the course of last 20 years of existence in India, we have got a big footprint of service, implementation, support associates. And we spend a good amount of time as product managers sitting with them, taking calls, looking at their service request, and trying to draw insights out of those on what could be the pain points for the customers. So does it replace the direct conversation? No, it certainly aids to that conversation. The other area there we have been investing quite a lot is using tools around user behavior analytics, tools around product analytics to aid in our decision-making process. So most of the times, I think in the early days of product management, once you ship the feature, the job is done, you pretty much move on to the next feature or next capability. But there is a stronger emphasis on figuring out what's the outcome that you have been driving with the feature that you have released, and how does it feed back into the discovery cycle. So those are some of the tools that we can use as we go forward in terms of being closer to the customers. Some of the other things that you could potentially do is being part of the sales process. Let's say you have got a new product being launched, and sales team typically looks for support from product folks. So I think those could be some of those areas that you could potentially go and help. And in the process, you end up learning a lot more about what are the pain points and what's really working well for the customer with the product offering that you have. The third element that we have been focusing on is product community. And this is where we have been investing quite a lot in ADP in the recent last 6 odd months. So ADP grew from 50 odd product managers. ADP India grew from 50 odd product managers 3 years ago to 120 product managers today. So that's a huge growth from a product management footprint perspective. But it also comes with a challenge that many of these product managers either might have come externally to the organization, they might have come through B schools, they might have come internally. So there is some aspect which needs, some or the other aspect which needs to be bridged for us to set them to success. And which is where we are leveraging this community to help in terms of getting our product managers as far as possible on the same plane. So what does this community really do? So we use these, we call this community as Product Guild, and in Product Guild we share learnings across different business units, across product managers, be it in the small business unit, mid-market or up-market. And we share insights and we share learnings and frameworks and so on. So we are seeing good amount of traction there, some leading indicators that this is working well. I am pretty sure this could be some of those things that other companies could try as well, especially the companies who have been growing from a product management footprint perspective. I think Industry Connect, when we heard about Product Leaders Forum happening in Hyderabad, after such a long time we have not seen any such event happening in Hyderabad. And when we heard about it, we certainly wanted to tap into this opportunity, and which is why you see a lot of folks from ADP out here in the audience. We wanted to make sure that we were networking with our local community in Hyderabad and the product management community at large. Now, the fourth one, which I want to talk about, is the culture of innovation. Now, when you put the product management 101, the customer at the center, and community of sharing of knowledge and insights all together, then it creates a perfect platform for you to innovate. And we at ADP, we have been investing a lot on innovation. There are wider corporate level innovation initiatives as well as initiatives within ADP India, where we are encouraging our product managers to leverage the learnings across the three pillars that I talked before to innovate. I think we have got some good traction going from ADP India, where some of the newer products are built, conceptualized and built out of India. So something for other companies to kind of think about in terms of innovation. So that's really what I had at a summary level. When you put all these four pillars together, this is where I think we can empower and encourage our product leaders to be future ready. in terms of be it GenAI or something else, right? So I'll take a pause and see if there are any questions and anything that you guys like to share from your organization before we go for lunch. Yep.
In the community part, we have a big thing on mindset part. Mindset is another important aspect wherein everyone has to practice upon it. So how are you tackling it, and what are the tips or any suggestions on how do we have to follow with it? Because that's a interesting conversation to have it, and keeps happening about. I just want to understand your thought process.
Sure. I think I don't know if there is a formula to build the product mindset, but what I would say is, as part of the product community and keeping the customer at the center, I think we have made some strides there. Example, we focus a lot on design thinking and user research. In terms of trying, before we get into building something, we spend a good amount of time doing market analysis and user research. And as part of these community, when we share some of these insights or case studies that we may have done for some of our products, that encourages the rest of the product managers to start thinking in those directions. So I think it comes as a result of a lot of discussions and a lot of deliberation on some of these topics. I would say that's primarily what we have been doing.
So I have a question about how do you apply Gen AI, which basically helps a reduction in product leaders kind of a work. Do you have any use cases which you practice?
Yeah. So I think we have heard of some use cases. I've heard Gen AI being used, whether, I don't know if, at least I have not used, or anybody from our organization has not used, but I've heard Gen AI getting used quite a lot in terms of competitive analysis. I've heard Gen AI getting used in terms of things like release notes and communication post-release and go-to-market and stuff like that.
Do you mean like in the development cycles, like for example, when you're developing a product?
In the development cycle, I thought you were talking purely from product. In the development cycle, I think we are exploring some ideas about how do we increase the productivity of our engineers. So in ADP, we have a platform, HCM platform, using which we can build apps. We are exploring ideas on can we, based on prompts, can we start building applications? And to the extent that we are even thinking that based on the what's been articulated as a requirement, can that start getting converted into some sort of a user experience options? And based on the user experience that you want to go with, can you start using the platform to build those apps? Because these are low-code platforms, so potentially you could do it. It's not really the code.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Piyush. You just said that building the product mindset is like really difficult. One of the thing is on the topic building product community, right? We know that product management is not still a very widely popular academic course, or like you can't have a degree specifically in product management if you are undergraduate. Are you building a path for, say, people from engineering or other backgrounds within ADP to transfer into role, and how do you support that that kind of environment where we can cultivate people to basically transition into this role while basically building the necessary skill set to basically excel at that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So one of the things that we want to index quite heavily on in ADP as an example is the domain knowledge. Like, we have been a big payroll player for a long, long time. So there is a good amount of domain knowledge which resides within the company. So which is where it becomes important for us to encourage our internal engineers as well as service associates to move into product management should they want to. So we do create learning paths for them. Now it's not as simple as creating a learning path and kind of leaving it to them, but we have a structured program which involves actually HR, which involves the leadership, because there needs to be equal buy-in from all the players to make it happen. So it's a combination of learning paths, mentorship program, and we try to create a roadmap for that person that maybe with hitting certain milestones, maybe in certain number of months, you would transition into product management.
We can take one last question. Yeah. So, in large organizations, right, one-time training is not sufficient,
Yep.
or even one-time learning is not sufficient.
Yep.
How can Gen AI help in, improving the knowledge retention rates? To the same thing, one more question I have. As an employee, I might be, super knowledgeable, but I might be super inconfident. Okay.
Very good question.
I could be, I could be, very fast, but very inaccurate. There are multiple combinations. How can Gen AI solve this problem and improve the efficiency overall of a company?
Oh, great question. I don't know if I have a answer to that question, but I think I'll try to answer the second part of your question to the best of my ability. So, how can we get the confidence? I think the question was, I may have the knowledge, but I don't have the confidence, right? So, as part of this community exercise that we are doing, there is a lot of emphasis on storytelling. Like many of our product managers could have been coming internally from within the organization. So they may not be very comfortable speaking in large forums, speaking in front of the client, presenting to the executives and so on. So what we try to do is we create this environment for them to feel safely. So this community is like, nobody's really judging you. You come in and talk about your product ideas, what you did for some of the launches that you may have done, what you did for some of the prioritization exercise you may have done, what you did for your discovery exercise, right? And we kind of encourage that way. Does that help? I know there's no Gen AI here, so. Yeah.
Thank you, Chandrasekhar.
Okay.
I request Sandeep to come and honor the guest.
It's okay.
Thank you, Chandrasekhar. We break for lunch. We meet at 2 o'clock back.